When it comes to important, influential women in American history, Jeannette Rankin is at the top of the list. How do her achievements still impact women all around the world, you may ask? Well, she was and still is an inspiration to many women because of her go-getter attitude and her strong belief in women's rights. I myself am not a big feminist or a big follower in the women's rights movement, but I do feel a sense of pride for women when I think about all of the things she accomplished in her life. She was the first female ever elected to U.S. Congress, the only woman to this date ever elected to Congress in the state of Montana, one of the very few suffragists elected to Congress, and the only member of Congress to vote against U.S. participation in both World War I and World War II. Rankin believed strongly in many things, but her two major points were women's suffrage and nonviolence. Jeannette Rankin's most strong belief was women's suffrage. She had an average upbringing, which led her to get a degree in biology from the University of Montana, but not long after that, she found her true calling when she decided to enter the University of Washington in Seattle. While she was there, she joined the women's suffrage movement and became a lobbyist for the National American Women's Suffrage Association. In this association, she went as a representative to rally politicians in favor of expanded women's suffrage. After being a part of the NAWSA for a few years, she moved back home. In 1914, she finally gained the women of her home state of Montana the right to vote. 2 years after her success in Montana, she decided to run for Congress. She had two key advantages in her campaign: her reputation as a suffragist and her very well politically known brother who financed her campaign. Because of her strong belief in women's suffrage and the fact that she was the only woman running for Congress, she secured the GOP nomination for the state of Montana and became the first woman ever elected to Congress. Her time as a congresswoman was spent doing lots of voting and arguing for women's rights. She also voted for prohibition and against the Espionage Act of 1917. Another one of her strong beliefs was that of nonviolence. Jeannette Rankin was an extreme pacifist. She was the only member of Congress who voted against U.S. participation in World War I and World War II. She served as a delegate to the Women's International Conference for Peace in Switzerland. And then she later formed her own pacifist organization called the Georgia Peace Society. From 1929 to 1939, she was a speaker for the National Council for the Prevention of War. And then she later became an active member of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, serving in several key positions. Later on in her life, she made a return to politics in 1939. Then she ran for a seat in the House of Representatives for the state of Montana, and she won mostly because of her anti-war mindset. After her last term was up, she decided not to run again, but instead spent her time traveling and speaking about her beliefs. She mostly liked to travel to India and study Gandhi's teachings on nonviolent protest, and then she also continued to further her pacifist beliefs and talk about women's suffrage around the globe. In conclusion, Jeannette Rankin continues to be one of the most inspiring and influential women in the United States. Her accomplishments are beyond admirable. She is a true idol for many American women. Thank you.